Welcome to the Hourly Podcast. In this episode, Angela Gintz, Director of Talent at Salt and Straw, discusses the challenges of scaling teams and maintaining culture during rapid expansion. Angela emphasizes the importance of storytelling and human connection in creating a unique employee experience. The discussion also highlights the value of community building and local focus when opening new locations. Enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by JoJo, an AI virtual recruiter powered by Sprockets. Designed for the hourly workforce, JoJo works 24/7 to source, screen, and schedule interviews with the best applicants for your business. JoJo helps reduce employee turnover and time spent hiring so you and your team can focus on other important tasks. To learn more, head to sprockets.ai/JoJo.
Thanks so much, Angela, for coming on the podcast today. You're somebody who on LinkedIn I've followed for a long time and excited here to catch up and learn more about your career. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's nice to make your acquaintance, not just in a digital sphere.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about you. Someone who's never heard your name before. What do you do, at least professionally? And how does it relate to people? Because we love talking about that.
Yes, yeah. So I'm the director of talent development at Salt and Straw. So if you haven't heard of us, we are a premium ice cream brand based out of Portland, Oregon, but slowly taking over the world one scoop at a time, we like to say. We are open mostly on the West Coast, but expanding pretty rapidly across the U.S. We just opened today, actually, in Gilbert, Arizona, our first shop in the state of Arizona, which we're very excited about. So we're about, an hour into our first foray into Arizona, and opening in New York City here in 6 or 8 weeks or so. So just really excited to kind of expand our national footprint. For me personally, I work with the recruitment function as well as the training and career development, leadership development functions with our internal team members. So we have about 1,200 team members at Salt and Straw, and I get the distinct honor, my team, myself, meeting all the salties as they come in, help with onboarding, get them to know a little bit about our Salt and Straw story, the culture, everything else. It's been a really fun ride for me so far. I'm about 2.5 years into my time at Salt and Straw. And I actually made a big career pivot into Salt and Straw from the higher education space. So most of my career up to this point has been working directly with college students. If you ever lived on campus in college and you had an RA or a hall director, that's what I did for quite some time. And then I moved into the mentorship DEI space, working with first generation college students of color, and a lot of mentorship, career development, things like that. So when it got to close to the pandemic, soon into the pandemic, I realized, I want to keep working with people, but I want to do something also fun and have access to a lot of free ice cream. So that's what I did.
Yeah, love it. No, there's so much to talk about in that history. Thank you. One thing that kind of sticks out to me, and if you've ever listened to this podcast, you know that we talk about scaling teams and recruiting hourly team members and culture and building vehicles where people feel comfortable and productive. Yes. What's interesting about your story, or Salt and Straw's story, is expansion. And as early as today, into new geographies and new cultures, right? And you, who are a champion of the culture and building up team members and all those things, how do you do that in a completely new state, in a completely new business, in a completely different location? Like, I get how if you had a bunch of locations, there's a history of that. How do you make sure that everyone who joins kind of feels the salty mentality?
Yeah, that's a great question and a big one. I think a career maker or breaker for a lot of people. I think in a lot of ways we, especially at Salt and Straw, we really try to lead with a story. The storytelling, the human connection. We say where people come to us for great ice cream, but really what they're getting from us is a moment of full face attention, a moment of human connection with another person. And in a world and a society that is so fast paced and so, especially in the fast casual restaurant space, the efficiency, the get people through the door as quickly as possible. That's the common ethos, of the restaurant industry. But for us, we intentionally slow it down. We intentionally, tell our scoopers, don't worry about the line, just take care of the person in front of you. And so knowing that we have that mentality, we sort of lead with that and say, hey, this is not a regular restaurant job. This is a place for community where you can build community with your teammates, but you also can build community in the place that you are located. And mostly we find that when we open in new geographies, the people there, I'll take Gilbert, Arizona, for example, the shop that we are opening literally today. The selling point there is that the shop itself is on this sort of family farm development, if you will, and there's a school on the development, and so when we talk about Salt and Straw, we say, yes, again, like great ice cream, really fun, but we know that you care about your community, and how do we support you in supporting your community? And so how do we keep it sort of that local focus as much as possible? And so that's something that the folks there can really connect to, because they're like, yeah, I care about this farm. I care about Gilbert, Arizona. I care about my hometown and its people. And so it's a bonus that they get to smell like waffles at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love it. And
yeah.
I don't mean that, I'm not asking to like give any trade secrets or anything like that, but curious of, because all of that, totally agree with. I absolutely love that. And I could see how it's leading to a lot of unit growth and a lot of really happy employees.
Yeah.
One of the questions I would have is tactically, how do you get that message out in a place where you haven't done business before? Is it like job descriptions? Is it, I don't know, show and tells? How do you think about that when you open in a new market?
Yeah, that's the secret sauce, right? So I think it's all of it. We did do a lot of revamping of our job descriptions and our job ads this year to sort of front load with that story piece that, you're the missing ingredient to our scoop, kind of thing. And not to be super cheesy about it, but, just kind of show that this is not just, we're not churning and burning, people through the door and getting them, butts in seats, that we're really taking that spirit of hospitality in every step of the, outreach, interview, onboarding, every step of the way is about hospitality and not just about the experience in the shops. I think the other piece of it is, when we do extensive research, on locations prior to opening, but it also, I know our CEO, Kim Malik, really values the relationship building of the people in the city, that she's looking at real estate. But also, she is a very natural connection builder. And so I know for us, we did a research trip to New York City about a couple months ago, on the outreach and recruiting front. And who we met with were other businesses who we saw had a very similar mentality to us, like very strong people focused, very strong hospitality focused, very strong commitment to human development. And so those are the folks that we were kind of like, hey, we're putting a bug in your ear. We're looking for people. Do you know anyone? Referrals. So it's really that spirit of connection. Hey, let's have lunch. Let's have coffee. Let's talk shop. And not just like, here's a link, have people apply, but really taking the time and cultivating those relationships at every stage. Our marketing team does this, we do this, everyone does. So it's maybe not the fastest, but it is that quality over quantity.
Right. And is that where you're spending the majority of your time, is in, new locations, getting them set up, or are you in the field kind of, on the location to location doing training, combination of both? How are you spending your time?
Yeah, so I actually, a little bit of all of that. I would say probably the biggest thing right now, because we're still a young company, we're about 13 years old. A lot of it is internally facing. So ensuring that we have the infrastructures of support and the kind of aces in our places when it comes to the hiring, right? And so I
Mhm.
think a lot of it, I spend a lot of time with hiring managers and current managers, helping them work through kinks of what they're seeing in their day to day and kind of maintaining that spirit of hospitality when there's conflict, or spirit of hospitality when they didn't maybe meet their metrics, but there's a few things that, different levers that they can pull to improve, and coaching them through that. I think, it's funny, the way that I think about it is things like community building, right? And the spirit of hospitality, they don't just happen. You have to put the effort in brick by brick. And oftentimes in the restaurant industry, we think about with the customer. We absolutely, the customer facing, guest facing interaction is that. But who's taking care of the people that are supposed to be taking care of everyone else? And I
Right.
think that's where I feel very strongly that the internally, those folks need that spirit of care. They need to feel it every day that they're working, and it's not just a slog, when they're working. So I guess, to your answer, it's really neither. It's kind of more internally facing and providing that structure of support underneath so that the folks who shine can really shine bright.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're thinking about growth and in your job, I mean, what do you anticipate being some of the biggest challenges in the next few years, particularly around any hourly positions that you guys anticipate growing?
Yeah, I would say, I think while we do a lot of due diligence, I think it's been interesting to think about and forecast recruiting in places that are vastly different than Portland, in its
Yeah.
ethos, in its approach to restaurants, et cetera. I think even the idea of opening in New York City feels like the exact cultural opposite to Portland, Oregon. The West
Right.
Coast, laid back, chill vibe, and the fast paced East Coast, New York, give me my ice cream and go kind of feeling. But I
Hmm.
think, what I've learned is that there's always people who are seeking that community space, which is what we attempt to be, or we seek to be, in every state, every city that we're in. There's always people that are okay with a little bit of a slower pace and the sort of wine tasting, experience that we provide with ice cream. And so I think that challenge has, allayed my own fears over time, but it definitely is something that I think about. Certainly, that maybe we're not always going to be embraced, or not every community is going to want to stand in line. Like, I think that is
Yeah.
a very real thing,
Yeah, and I just think of that in the context of having hourly workers and what I would call in broader scale, larger groups of restaurants and types of businesses is like microcultures within
Hmm.
each of their communities, right? Like when
Yeah,
you have, I think you guys are entering a really interesting phase where a lot of locations were kind of in one specific geography in America, or in one part of
yeah,
the world, and now that you're expanding 3,000 miles away, it's
right.
the quality control challenge. That's not
Yes.
just the food, but also the service and people. And
Right.
I think there's it's a spectrum, of course, but there's one end of the spectrum where you say, we're going to, no matter where we are, have the same exact culture, right?
Hmm.
These are the types of people we want. We're going to find them heck or high water. And this
Hmm.
is the way that we operate. And then the other end of the spectrum is, maybe we will kind of have a different feel from employees based on the culture of the city or the geography sort of thing. And,
Yeah.
the bigger scale, the harder it is to manage that, of course. Like if you had 3,000 restaurants, it's really hard to do. But with 25, maybe a little bit easier. How do you think about that? Like super curious of where you
Yeah.
where you lie on that.
Yeah, that is such an interesting question. We talk about that often, and where our conversations typically draw back to. So we are, friends of the Danny Meyer Hospitality Group, and so something that Danny Meyer says a lot is that culture will evolve, but your values should stay the same. And so we
Mm.
truly truly lean into our 5 core values. And it's, take one, create the unbelievable or act with human kindness. Those things are, if we can stay true to those North Stars, how you create the unbelievable in someone's day in Gilbert, Arizona is going to be very different than making someone's day in Disneyland, downtown Disney. And so, as long as you are moving toward that spirit of creativity or innovation, then, your micro culture inevitably will be decided by the people that are there. And I think we want that. We want people to show up in their, tattoos and their blue hair and all that kind of stuff. But maybe the blue hair in, Studio City, California is going to be different than Miami, Florida. And that's fine. But as long as they're treating each other with kindness and, having that neighborly spirit, then we're kind of open to that.
Yeah. No, I love that, right? And I think it tried true, and it's a common theme amongst the hourly podcast and the hourly book is having the core values of the North Star the same, but allowing the details to kind of be, kind of fleshed out in real time.
Exactly.
Which is really interesting. And when you're talking about an imperfect cog, right? And I hate even saying the word cog, but with people, it's really hard to toe the line of allowing each location to be individualistic, yet having the same standards of service across the board, right? And something that I'm sure that you guys tackle and talk about almost every single day is how do you do those things?
Yeah. Well, that's funny. I think we wrestle with this often because, we first and foremost want our scoopers, our frontline, hourly team members in the shops to be, connectors, storytellers, things like that. And so, when it comes to training, okay, so our menu, something that I think that sets us apart, our menu, we have 13 classic flavors that are, always there. And then we have a menu of 4 to 5 flavors every month that change. And so it's, team members are kind of like, oh, we're learning a lot and we're memorizing a lot of facts about flavors every month. But really what we encourage them to do is just, get to know the flavor. We equip them with a ton of different stories, whether that's from the production room, whether that's from the inspiration of the flavor or one of the partners that we partnered with. So we equip them with a ton of stories, and then we let them know, hey, whichever story that you latch onto, make it personal to you. If you really care that this flavor was inspired by Grandma Malik's cookies, then tell that story. If the connection point for you with this month's flavor, is that you weren't really a big chocolate fan, but this flavor, changed your mind, then tell that story. So, where's your, we kind of lead them to find where's your place of authenticity and just move from that place. And that we don't want it to be super robotic and super scripted, but just, hey, make a genuine connection with someone and do what feels right for you. But as long as it's authentic and, you're telling a story of the flavor, then great, you're hitting all the marks, of what you need to be doing.
Yeah, love it. Talk to me a little bit about unique perks that you've seen to be effective in recruiting hourly workers. And I ask this because we've had amazing companies with incredible cultures come on. And one thing that's been refreshingly inconsistent is the array of things that they offer to their employees that makes them special. Because I thought when we first started this and when I wrote the book, everyone would do like the same 5, like the health insurance, the PTO, the free meal, etc. But it's been so fascinating having people on to talk about something that's really unique to them, whether that's mental health resources to daily pay, anything from your group that stands out as what you would consider either highly attractive to this new cohort of hourly workers or really unique to you?
Yeah. I would say, the majority of our workforce at Salt and Straw, and I think may be the case across a lot of fast casual companies, but We have like 75% of our hourly workforce is 25 years old or younger.
Oh, wow.
And so, right. And so that's, pretty
Yep.
squarely in the Gen Z population. And I think there's a few commonalities in that population that we can really tie that population to our brand. And that is, the feeling of contributing to something bigger in the world or being part of something bigger in the world than myself, and being on the forefront of a company that cares and has values and, wants to put that on the forefront. So what I hear a lot from our hourly team members is that they love being a part of something that they can kind of spread the good word on. And I think that they are empowered to kind of read the room when a guest or a family is in the space, and they can say, hey, it sounds like you're having a really tough day. Like, this scoop is on me, and I know that's not a brand new thing for, companies, but team members love being able to have that moment where they can genuinely make someone's day. And I think that is a very big driver for a lot of folks. We don't talk about it a lot. And quite frankly, now that I'm saying it, we probably should quote, sell that more. But that is an unintended, huge perk for our team members, that they like being part of this giving space, this movement, the idea of letting ice cream change the world, like, to the idealistic 22-year-old, that's amazing,
Yeah, incredible. And I've never heard of anything like that. So just tactically, is that something that's like talked about, like, hey, you can give out this, and it's interesting.
Yeah,
And
I mean, we were like, be careful, not every day, but
there's
but
no,
if you're like, go ahead, sorry.
No, I've just never heard of it, and I'm just curious of like the deployment of it, right? Do you find that it's like once a shift? Do people do it once a week? Kind of, what does it look like in the field?
I don't have the quantifiable data on that, but I know that, I mean, it's hard to know, because that's the story that people always tell. Like, they love the ability to be altruistic, and I don't think they're saying that in every shift or doing that in every shift. We probably would go out of business. But those are the big moments. Like, oh wow, I really could see this 7-year-old. They were really shining. They brought all their friends to their birthday party. We were able to give them a free scoop, kind of thing. So. Yeah, I think it happens quite often, but not in a detrimental way.
Because I can imagine, I just think of my own daughter. One time she had a lemonade stand, and we went to a local ice cream shop, not yours, because you don't have any here in Charleston, but we went to a local ice cream shop, and she had like this little purse that she started opening to like take out quarters, because that's how much the lemonade stand was to pay at the counter. And so, it was a big deal, because she got to, go in, earn the ice cream, ask for it, go up and pay the counter, and then the person who worked there like push the money back, say like, it's on us. And how, like, although for that ice cream shop owner or the person who was working, I mean, what is that, like $1 or $2, like an actual cost? But like the intrinsic value that is to my wife and I who are watching, everyone who's like melting on the floor, watching this little girl do this, and to my daughter Tiggy, like what that meant, right? So I could absolutely see how that could be impactful. And probably, to your point, the person who was lighting up the most was the worker that got to do it.
Right.
And like, that's the sort of impact I love, and I absolutely appreciate. So no, I think that's really interesting and really cool. But we are coming up on time, because we try to keep it under 25 minutes. The last question, and I always ask everyone this same exact thing. What was your first hourly job? And were you let go, or did you leave that job?
Oh, that is a great question. So my first hourly job was a tutor at Kumon Learning. I don't know if you're familiar with that, or if that's just a West Coast thing, but it's a Japanese tutoring brand, if you will. And I was a math tutor to kids when I was 15. I did that all the way through high school, and I left because I went to college. So I was not let go. I think our center director wanted to keep me as long as humanly possible, because I I moved from being a tutor to kind of working the front desk, and she was like, you're so welcoming and kind to the kids and the parents, can you stay longer? And I'm like, oh, I'm moving away for college. So
Shoot.
that was a really fun, yeah, it was fun. It was really enjoyable. And I, for a little bit, worked with 3-year-olds, and counting and stuff. I'm like, these kids don't want to be here, but they don't want extra tutoring,
That's funny.
But made it as fun as possible.
Awesome. And then if somebody wants to get in touch with you or the brand, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, that is a great question. So you can reach, email probably is the best way. For me personally, it's just angela.gintz@saltandstraw.com. Or, you can always find the contact information on our pints. I think it's guest experience or human at saltandstraw.com. I'm sorry, I probably should know that off the top of my head.
Can you buy tubs of or pints of ice cream online to get delivered, like an example, to Charleston?
Yes. Yeah, if you go on our
in
website.
Local grocery stores, or is it mostly okay.
Yeah, they are not, but we will ship them to you from Portland. But we ship nationwide, and there's a few different, party packs, if you will, that suggest some good flavors or the top sellers. But yeah,
what is your favorite flavor? What do I need to get? What should I be ordering tonight?
Oh my goodness, that's such a big question. Well, currently our berries menu is just phenomenal. There's a huckleberry cornbread flavor that is out of control. I know that's probably not something that one would typically get. But besides that one, if you want to go for something more classic, I love our Arbequina olive oil. That one is a very surprising kind of twist on vanilla, I would say, but it definitely has that olive oil essence. Even if you're not an olive oil fan, that one to me is the best one to pair with any other flavor. So you can get honey lavender and our olive oil flavor, or even the huckleberry cornbread, and put a little scoop of the olive oil underneath it. It creates a really incredible kind of flavor profile together. So I mean, those are my favorites, but you genuinely cannot go wrong. Like, as innovative as we are, I've never tried a salt and straw flavor that I thought was horrendous or disgusting. Like, they're all really cool and different and great in their own ways.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Angela.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll chat.